Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be here today. This is season two, episode two. I hope you saw the first episode that I shot, but I didn't do it in the studio, and it was a bit of a short episode. And if you look back on that episode, I dealt with the topic of singleness because I feel like um, that is a topic that there are some narratives out there that are not necessarily the correct narrative. And again, just to remind you, my name is Dr. Shali. And this podcast is about igniting and creating conversations about things that people need to talk about and just adding a new nuance to it and just lifting the soul and pushing you to do things that maybe you would have been scared about or to look at things differently that maybe you have not been looking at in the right way. Yeah. So we are looking at this is episode two, and we are looking at the first episode. I looked at singleness, and this is singleness part two. So again, I will define singleness as the state of not being married or having a partner. Now, the topic of singleness is usually very controversial, or people makes people very uncomfortable. Especially, I don't know if the same is for men, but if you're a woman, especially as you get older, singleness becomes a very tricky topic. I will be turning 41 next month, and so singleness is an issue and a matter of concern. So, what are some of the narratives that society says about singleness? There is this, like it's like a disease. It's this thing that you have to outrun. It's this horrible season. It's just filled with loneliness and misery. And a lot of times, it's for some people, it means that maybe you are not good enough to be picked, or life has forgotten you. Or these are just some of the narratives that are out there. And a lot of times, sometimes if you do go to church, it also sometimes doesn't help that much, because I feel like church setup is more set up for people who are married and have kids. The church never really knows what to do with single people. And sometimes the most ridiculous things, you'll find ministries which are sometimes led by women, and they'll be telling women like, you're single because you haven't fasted enough, or you haven't done this, or you haven't done this and you haven't done that. It's almost like marriage is something that should be earned. It's this elevated thing that you have to work hard to receive or to get. And a lot of times it leaves people who are single a bit confused about their status. Uh, uh, for example, let me talk about my personal experience of being single. I have been single now for a while, and I struggled with uh, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Because I never had anyone say that singleness was a good thing. All the narratives I had were negative things about what singleness is. And people would be like, pray harder, go to these events, do this, go online, do this. There's so many lists of things that you should be doing if you find yourself in the position of singleness. But very interestingly enough, the question, let me go back to the question, is singleness a good thing? If you go to, for example, if we look at the Bible in 1 Corinthians 7, where we hear Paul talking about marriage life and single life, he comes to the conclusion that being single is a good thing. Being married is a good thing. Both are good things. What matters is God in both of them, whether it is your marriage or whether you're single. And also, if you look at Ecclesiastes 1, verse 14, which talks about the different seasons of life. It talks about a time to plant, a time to sow. Like life has different seasons, but I love the way it ends. And it says that God has made everything beautiful in its time. And so singleness can be a good thing. And if you go to Romans 8:28, it says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. And if you look at Jeremiah 29:11, it says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you give you hope and a future. Now, I remember talking in my last podcast where I talked about my experience being single in my 30s and the struggles that I faced with it and how it was like just fighting not to be single. It was like, how can I not be single? Under which rock can I search? Where can I meet people? Where can I do this? You try dating sites, you try this. And sometimes I've come to realize that sometimes it's just not the right time. And sometimes not everyone will be married. And I think that a lot of people struggle with this reality. Um, what happens if you do not get married? Does it mean that your life is over? And even just looking back at the previous podcast, I had this conversation where I think it was last year where I was sitting in my brother's porch and it became so clear to me as I was just talking to myself and evaluating my life and looking back on my life. I have had very wonderful experiences. I've gotten to travel the world. I've gotten the opportunity to study outside the country and meet all kinds of people all over the world. And I was just looking at the life that I've had between 30 to 40, and I could not call it bad. It simply had not gone the way I expected because we all have these narratives that we have for our lives. I had said that by this age, I should have done this. By this age, I should have been married or I should have had kids. But what happens when your life doesn't go like that? Can it still be good? Can you be living a life that you have not planned for, a life that you could have not predicted, a life that you could not have wanted or even have seen in your family? And can it still be a good life? Now, these were some of the questions that I had to sit down and process and also think with myself. Is singleness a good thing? The society is singleness is bad. Marriage is a good thing. Those who are single, they are lonely and they're miserable. If you go to the church is like, let's fast. Let's do this so that we will not be single because singleness is looked at as this thing that is less than. So here you are, you're in a situation where you're like, I've tried all this and still I find myself single. So what does it mean? And I remember after I did the first podcast, I had people coming up to me and asking me, what are you happy? Because in the podcast, I had said that if it happens, I am good. And if it doesn't happen, I am not good. If it doesn't happen, I'm still good. So I'm good either way. If it happens or it doesn't happen. And a lot of times people will ask me, but what do you do with your desire to have a family? Or it can be a desire to have a certain job or a desire to have accomplished certain things in your life. What do you do if you have those desires, but your life doesn't look like what you expected? Is your life still good? I remember sitting with myself and thinking that my life has been good, despite not having all the things that I thought that I wanted to have. And I think I struggled with it being good and also having the feelings of wanting what is not possible in your season. And I think one of the best things that I learned in 2024 is the duality of life. So what is duality? Just give me a minute. Duality, it is a situation in which two opposite ideas or feelings exist at the same time. Can you have a situation where you are in waiting and hoping, and can life still be good on this side? Can both exist in the same space? And one of the examples in my life that really blew my mind around the word duality. I had a friend who lost her baby. Her baby lived for 2 days. After we had hoped and prayed, she finally had her baby, and her baby lived for 2 days. And so they buried the baby. And we had gone to visit her. A couple of friends we had all come from the same high school. So we'd grown up together and we knew her story. And I remember when we came to her place, she had snacks from our childhood. She had all these snacks from our childhood. And as we were talking to her, she was like, I know that I've lost my baby. She called him Ellie. But I want to celebrate the good that has also happened. She talked about the friends who had traveled with her impromptu to go and bury her child. The friend who slept with her as the milk was coming out and it had no one to drink, and helped her express her milk in the pain. She talked about her mother, the contribution her mother had made. She talked about the dream that she had, that even though it never came to fruition, just the idea of having that dream and coming that far was something to think about and something to even celebrate. She had never thought that she would want to be a mother, but even just having the experience of carrying Ellie in her womb for those 9 months, and even for all of us who watched her, and she told us that she didn't want us to focus on the bad, but to focus on the hope that Ellie brought. And I remember we sat outside, we ate the snacks from our childhood, and we reminisced about the past, and we laughed, and we talked. And I remember just thinking that in this one moment, the most horrific thing had happened to her. She had lost a baby she had carried. And in the same moment, there was this goodness that had come from it. There was this closeness she had come to realize with her relatives and with her friends. There was this appreciation that she had for life. There was this dream that had come to life. Although it had ended, sometimes just even having the opportunity to carry this dream is something worth celebrating. And it made me start looking at life. Like, you can be grieving, but you can still have a good day. And you can be wanting to be, let's say in this example, you can be wanting to be a wife, you can be wanting to be a mother. And you can grieve that, but at the same time, you can enjoy the benefits of the season that you're in. You can enjoy the time that you have to focus on the things that you enjoy. You can celebrate the opportunities that of just living alone and having let's say fudge cake for dinner. You can enjoy the opportunity to be able to know yourself, to know God, and to serve others in the best way that you can. You can be a better friend. There are certain things that come with being single that you will not have when you're married. Both seasons are good. Both comes with gifts and both come with burdens. And so my advice to anyone who might find themselves in this season is that what is the good and what is the bad? And the desire to have it and not have it can exist in the goodness that comes with being single. Being single is good. And I think in the Bible, the best example I can think of duality is the situation of Paul and Silas. I think it's in Acts 16, when they're in prison. They have been whipped and dragged, and they are finding themselves locked up in a jail cell, and they dared to worship. Of course, I don't want to look at singleness as horrible as being kept in a dungeon, but just to make you realize that it can still be good even when it doesn't happen the way that you expect it to happen. Good and hard can exist in the same space. And I think that a lot of people were also like reaching out to me and telling me, "Oh my gosh, we are going to pray for you." And I was like, "I'm in a good place. It's not a season of misery. Currently, I've been able to up and go to a different location and pursue my studies further, and even expose myself to other things, certain things that I would not have been able to do if I was attached with a family and having my kids here." And this is not a bad thing. What I have had to do is to contend for my faith. If your life doesn't go the way you want, is God still good? Can God still make it good? Those are some of the questions that I've had to contend with myself. And I have reached this conclusion that when you have what you want and you don't have what you want, both seasons are good. All are good. And I hope that those who are listening, if they are still struggling and trying to figure out their season, whatever that season might be, whether you're waiting for a child or you're waiting for a promotion or you're waiting for something, you can still enjoy where you are. You can still maximize where you are, even as you're waiting for whatever it is that you are hoping for. If you are, for example, waiting for a baby, you can serve in a home. You can be the best auntie that is out there. You can do something, do some good, maximize the season that you have, even as you're waiting for the one which you're hoping for, and also just contending with the fact that if it does not happen, just have the conversation with yourself. Will your life end? Will it be over? And I think these are things that you have to sit down and just talk with God. And I love this verse in Matthew 7:8 that says, "Seek God, and He will give you the answer." Seek Him and find out, what is this season about? What are the things that I can learn? And if they don't happen, can I still have a good life? What I can tell you is that in my time, I am very excited. I am single, childless, and there's no prospect in sight, but I'm very excited about 2025. I cannot wait to see the things that I can accomplish in my career. I cannot wait to see the things I can accomplish with my friends and family. I cannot wait to see what the future holds. Be encouraged. Live your life to the full. Enjoy the season. Singleness is a good thing. It is a gift. Dig in, search, find the gift of your season, wherever it is, whether it is your babies have left the house and now you're at home with your husband, whether your babies are little, whatever season you are in, find out the treasure that is in that season. I think I'll bring it to an end. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day.